Okay, if you start working on the doors, this is going to be a series of videos because there's a lot to do in this assembling the doors. So what I'm going to do is I'll show you basically the OEM Aventador hinge setup, and then show you what some other builders have done to make their doors work, and then show you what I'm trying to do. Now, part of my issue is because this is an NARC chassis, it was designed to fit the Diablo and had specific mounting points for the hinges. Well, because the body style is different, where my hinges need to be mounted are basically in the middle of nowhere. So I'm going to have to do some temporary supports to try to get the correct positioning. And I'm also using a 3D printed part of an OEM hinge for finalizing my design. So I'll show you as I go along how this plays into it. So, part one. Let's talk about the door construction. Basically, you've got the outer skin here, and then what goes inside that is the inner skin. Now, I've already cut out some holes, some access holes here. Now, keep in mind, whatever you cut out, you can always put back together. So the fact that I've got some big holes here really doesn't concern me. Now, this goes in thusly. Now, when this is all assembled, now the hinge plate's going to go up here, detached here. And now here's the tricky part. This is the inner door curve, and that's a big piece. So when you put the hinges on, these doors have to open up such that this will clear the inner structure of the car. So I'm going to roughly put these back on the car, and you'll see what I'm talking about. I have a 3D print of an OEM hinge, and it looks like it's going to need to go up here somewhere to be able to clear that. So I need to cut out an opening in here so that I can get this positioned. I'll have to figure out some mounting mechanism in here, but this is where we're going to start. Now, the issue I've got is I'm going to have to put a plate up here, basically about 30 degrees, which is what the hinge says. As you can see, the problem with that plate, which I would then bolt my hinge to, is there's nothing here to connect it to. So, task one is to try to develop some kind of a support structure that will hold that up. Okay. And this is going to be a little more difficult because the body layout is different than a Diablo, and the chassis that I have is designed for a Diablo. So I'm going to have to come up with some different mounting points. The inner door panel I've got screwed on, actually waiting on some rubber strips for, let's show you from the other side. Okay, I'm waiting on some rubber molding. I got to trim those edges down, put the rubber molding on, and then put the inner door card up against that and see how it all lines up. So, okay, I marked where I need to trim the edge of the door flange, basically to about a ½ an inch all the way around. Before I do that, I need to actually make these edges about 1/8 of an inch. So there's some thick spots I'm going to have to grind down. So I'll get those ground down and then trim it. But I'll probably wait until I get my rubber trim in before I actually cut them down. But there are some thick spots there that I'll have to adjust. Now I've trimmed the inner door flange down to about a 1/2 inch all the way around, and then ground the edges off to where it's about an 1/8 inch to put the rubbers on. Okay, now I've got the door rubbers installed. Don't worry about the top, that'll get patterned in later on. Right now this is just for fitting the door components. Okay, now with the inner door card on, the outside of the door looks pretty good. Now if you look on the inside, you'll see that for the most part, that inner thing is right up against the rubber. But there's some areas back here, it's not. I've just got 2 screws holding the inner door panel in place because this could go up or down. Now looking from the inside, we can see that I could move that inner door skin over to seat up against the rubber seal. And doing that way means that this piece would have to get shoved over, which means I have to trim some stuff up there. But this is where the door hinge should attach, would be right in here. Okay, I've widened the inner door card after setting in the door. Now I'll put some glue sticks to hold it in place. Trial fit one more time, and then I'll glass it together. So the next thing to do was to glass it all back together, and then it should start working. Okay, got the door put back together. A little skim coat of Duraglass along the bottom. Now this is the side where the hinge will get mounted, and I've added in 4 layers of fiberglass for strength. This plate will get bonded on the inside wherever it needs to go, and this plate here will get actually welded under the hinge, and then this will get bolted to the door. Okay, with the inner door card just temporarily held in place, you begin to see that there are some issues. Now, it would fit up against the back fairly well, but then you come up here where it has to match the dash, and there's an issue I'm going to have to get figured out. And that's just, they're going to have to extend the dash to meet the door card. Dash may need to go up a little bit, but yeah. So this is kind of, anybody who's building one of these, there's always going to be a challenge you're going to have to overcome. And right now I got some challenges. I also want to point out, this is how I'm doing it. I'm sure there are lots of other ways out there, and other people have done it better. And I'm just sharing with you, my process. OEM hinges are designed to have the proper offset and angle to lift the doors at the correct angle to clear the inner door structure as well as the windows. The windows are frameless except a small track on the leading edge. The hinge is mounted to the underside of the monocoque. Mounting points are shown from an actual Aventador monocoque that Wayne Bell is working on. OEM hinges are expensive, over $1,000 for a set. Here are some of the designs used by various builders. Okay, working on a hinge design. This was an old hinge that I had, I'm not sure, from some other build. It essentially has, this part was movable, had these two pieces here that were welded on, and it had a bronze bushing in here. So this is my final design, and this was based on some information I'd gotten from a post by Charlie Strickland. I talked about using some hat washers. So these are some hat washers, and then some 1-inch OD by 3/4 inch ID steel bushings, that these get cut in half here. And then they're welded on here. Then I actually made a plate to go on the bottom, and the plate's what's going to get welded in. And my hinge will actually go on this piece here. So that's my hinge design, and I'll have to figure out how it's going to get mounted to the chassis, and then figure out the proper dimensions for the door to open properly. So that's a start. Total cost for my hinges would be less than $50. When welding the hat washers, they will leak oil. I tack the bushings in place, then remove the hat washers before the final welding. Okay, here's a temporary support of the hinge inside the door, and that's basically situated at a 30-degree angle. Now, here it is from the outside, and basically that's going to be, I think, too close. But that's what I'm making these videos for, is to show you how I finally come up with the first solution. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, I would appreciate it if you would, and be sure and turn on your post notifications. Thank you for watching.